All right, Laura, Dwayne just gavelled us in, and Laura, if you want to kind of take it over from there in sunny Hawaii.
So to start off with, I'm Laura Lotspeech. I've been either a school board member and budget committee member since 1993. This will be my last meeting with you folks. I am moving to Molokai, Hawaii, where I am right now. So yeah, that's it. Let's move on and do introductions around the room.
Why don't we get the other people online? Michael, you want to go, and then Sarah?
Yeah, good evening, Michael Campbell. I'm the board chair. My wife and I are overlapping tonight. So as soon as she gets home, I'm going to head down to the high school, but thankful for technology. And I'll just suggest, Brent, if is Mark there in the building? He could run the meeting if that's easier. If Laura wasn't anticipating, it's kind of difficult to run a meeting from an iPad.
It's not impossible. I can.
It's not impossible.
I can certainly do it until we elect the new officers. I'm fine with that. I'm going to pull up the documents for the meeting and get the agenda here in front of me. I'm fine with that. Okay, so I guess first I should call the meeting to order. This is the budget committee meeting for 2024-25 budget on May 6th, 7th, 2024. So let's move on to the introduction of everyone else in the room, please. And I can't see everybody, so I can't tell where to start there. So
I think we're going to go to Sarah next.
Online. Sarah, do you want me to jump in?
Yeah.
Okay, hi, I'm Sarah Adams. I cannot remember how long I've been on the budget committee, but it's been a few rounds now. I am a PTS parent. I have a daughter who is a sophomore at Phoenix High School.
Thank you, Sarah. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Dawn Watson. I am on the school board. I've been on the school board for 11 years, and before that, I was on the budget committee as just a member.
Thank you, Dawn.
I'm Nate Shen. I've been on the school board or the budget committee since '99.
Hi, Sarah Crawford, been on school board since 2016.
Mark Vargas. I've been on the budget committee since I was 98. And we joined together, it was 99. 98 or 99. It was good. I did all the school site committees and all that. My kids went through the whole program here in Phoenix. Graduated 3 kids from the program, so they're all got professional careers and things right now. So.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Robinson, and I had 3 kids in the district, and I've been on this budget committee for many years, probably like you, Mark. I just don't remember how many years, but it's a privilege to be on this.
I'm Roland Kretschmann. My daughter went through the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, and I've been on the budget committee for a few years.
Yeah, I'm Rick Nagel, and I've been a member of the school board since 1999 when Nate and I came together. I'm a graduate from Phoenix High School.
I'm Polly Fairmont, and I'll be finishing up my 4th year as a board member next year. I'm a graduate of Phoenix High, like Rick, and I also have 2 daughters who graduated from Phoenix High.
Hello, everyone. I'm Yasmin Carabinas. I'm the Director of Accounting, and I've been with the district since 2011.
I'm Brent Berry, Superintendent for the last 7 years and been in the district for 20 years. And my assistant, the board assistant, Denise Skinner, and always want to thank Chris for putting us on Zoom. We also are blessed with a number of administrators here from all of our buildings, and so thanks for being here.
Okay. Michael, did you have an opportunity to introduce yourself?
I did. Yeah. Michael Campbell, I'm the current board chair, and yeah, hopefully see you
Okay.
all soon.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to the approval of the minutes from the meeting of 5/9/23. Did everyone have an opportunity to review those? If there are no additions or corrections, could I get a motion for approval, please?
I moved to approve the minutes from last year.
Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
Second, Roland Gretchen.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor of approval of minutes, aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes of the previous meeting approved. We'll move on to the election of officers. Do I have a nomination for position of committee chair for the 24-25 term?
Well, I would like to nominate Mark Vargas to be the chair for next year.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other nominations? No? If not, then I'll close the nomination. We will vote. All of those in favor of Mark as chairman for the 24-25 session, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And do you want me to continue with the election of officers, or shall we have Mark take that over?
I'll take over, Laura.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Appreciate you guys nominating me. I've been chairman of this probably 8 or 10 times over the past 5 years, so I appreciate that. We need, next on the list is to nominate a vice chair. So any nominations for vice chair?
I would nominate Dwayne.
Got a nomination. Any others? There's no others. All in favor of Dwayne as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Seems Dwayne is chair. Thank you. Okay, thanks. We don't have to elect any other positions. We move right into budget message, but before we get there, Brent and all, I've been watching the news the past few weeks, and I'm glad I haven't heard Phoenix's budget woes like Medford's in the news lately. So I look forward to the budget message today. So
Medford and Ashland both, yes.
So I'll let you, Brent, now take over. Okay.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I am certainly glad about that as well. And we really have, we're super fortunate and happy to present a budget where we're in, decent shape. And a lot of it is has to do with ADM security, which we'll talk a lot about tonight. And we have that gift from the state that ends next year. But we are fortunate to have an amazing business department, which is Yasmin Carabinas and another couple people. But we're going to present an $80 million budget to you tonight. And we feel like it meets the needs of the strategic plan and really serves every kid, and really looking forward to it. So Chris, if you want to start, I'll share just the budget message and the responsibilities a little bit, and then just give some 30,000-foot highlights of the budget. And then I'll turn it over to Yasmin, who will go in more detail and then certainly entertain any questions. Before I get started, I just really want to thank many of you have been on the budget committee for many years. It's always great to see you. You always have kids' interests at heart. And I know you take the time to really kind of look at this, ask great questions, and looking forward to that again tonight. And just appreciate the time you spend to go through this important process. So we will just get right into it. There are budget committee members, and we had a few people that aren't able to make it tonight. Hector Flores was unable. He has a commitment with the City of Talent, and Nancy McInnes was unable to be here as well. And Rebecca Weathers, who's a board member, was not able to be here. So, but appreciate them looking at the budget, and they've If they have any questions, we will certainly answer them as well. Just a review, sometimes we don't necessarily have brand new budget committee members, but we do this just as a formality. Sometimes we have new administrators, and it's nice to kind of share how this process works. Budget committee responsibilities is receiving the budget, ask for additional information, recommend any increases or decreases, which we can do tonight. And then finally recommend the approval, and then it goes to the full board after that. Then the school board receives the recommendation, and they hold a public hearing to have any public comment on the proposed budget. They take action, and then they appropriate and adopt and levy any taxes that are appropriate. There's always been a question on this budget committee or the board does supplemental budgets. Sometimes we need to do a supplemental budget at the end of the year to make sure we have appropriated funds in certain accounts. I don't see that happening this year. Every once in a while it does, but that is a board responsibility and not a budget committee responsibility. Here's our timeline. We're going to share with you tonight. And then June, is that 6th? Is a public hearing, and then board acts on that budget that same night. What's in this budget and budget in brief? Like I said, we are excited that we're not in the news for huge deficits. I feel for all of our colleagues in districts around the state that are really seeing some severe challenges, and it's not a fun place to be in. And quite frankly, we would have been there 2 or 3 years ago if we didn't get the support from the state of Oregon on ADM security after the fires, and it would have been devastating and re-traumatizing this community. And so I'm thankful for that piece of legislation. This budget is historic. It's an $80 million budget we're proposing. It's taken a lot of coordination and communication, and you'll see. And I really appreciate about Yasmin and all of our team members is leveraging all the funding sources that we have to make sure we're continuing our services and providing for our kids and our staff and our families. I think that's a strength of the district. For some reason, when we apply for grants, we get them. Sometimes they're millions of dollars. And we really kind of make sure we leverage all those funding sources to serve all of our students. This budget also takes into account what lies ahead and being fiscally responsible, because we do have a funding cliff coming up with the ADM security. Ideally, when this legislation was passed, we would have our staff. I just want to visual our staff through attrition would come to meet what our ADM is, and that would be even. We've been attritioning staff and actually moving people around, but our students are not. The housing and the multi-unit family housing it just hasn't come back yet. Are we hopeful it does in a couple years? Yes, but that's taken a while. Just now there's funding for families to rebuild and access Oregon funding, and that's been almost 4 years. So moving on, what's in this budget? Like I said, leveraging a lot of funds. ESSER funds was the federal funds for COVID relief, and we went through a cycle of ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. That is ending this year, and we've been very thoughtful about those dollars. We did not end up putting a lot of personnel into those federally funded dollars because we knew they were going to go away. We did have some that we had to move around to other grant sources or general fund. We have attrition of FTE via retirees and temporary positions that we hired this year. Shifting federal funds, and this is something that Tiffany Lambert has been really focused on the last few years, is when we reduce our number of kids, that affects our IDEA, our title funding, And we have staff in IDEA, special education dollars, and title funding dollars. So you'll see this budget, we had to move some of those to general fund because we have drastic shortfalls in those federal funds. And we always advocate, I know Don Watson was in DC not too long ago advocating for those federal dollars to keep increasing to support our kids rather than drastically getting reduced. This continues a general fund resource for our EDI, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Department. And I didn't finish that part, but it also with our implementation and strategic plan department as well. So both Kelly Soder, who is grant funded, Javier Del Rio, who is grant funded, they have a general fund line item to help support their initiatives that they have. And then this is super exciting. We are going to look at doing the first ever PTS Early Learning Center funded by Preschool Promise. That's not general fund dollars. It is actually state subsidized money that we will be able to access to help provide preschool for 20 students. And we're super excited about that. We do have an estimated funding balance of 7.97 million. And that is good for us. And like I said, that is a lot to do with the ADM security money over the last several years. Part of that 7.9 is 4.7 we will be receiving from the state for ADM security. Just to give you a little bit of a snapshot, the last 2 years totaled $7.4 million. So if you look at that, we have $12 million in ADM security. If we didn't have those dollars, we would be in the hole millions and millions and millions of dollars. It'd be very drastic for us. This is something that is also we've been planning for and have analyzed this year. Paid leave Oregon, we have increased our substitute costs almost $400,000. So we used ESSER funding to help support that this year, and that those funds go away. So we will have to support that in the general fund next year, anticipating about the same number of substitutes. In addition, Senate Bill 489 for our classified staff, they have access to unemployment during breaks. And so we estimate that to be about $450,000 that we budgeted this year in anticipation to having to make those claims and support the classified staff on those claims. Typically, we budget $50,000, and this year we bumped it up $400,000 to $450,000. So that's new to us, and almost $1 million of new obligations and planning that we need to make sure that we're prepared for. Finally, some of the school board guiding principles. You'll see the board shall encourage the conservative use of all resources, both natural and man-made. Strategic decisions should be made with consideration for longevity, fiscal responsibility, and sustainability. Another guiding principle, the board shall make balanced decisions and policies mindful of the best interests of all members of the school district, including students, parents, guardians, educators, and citizens of the community. And finally, the board is committed to fostering the diverse and inclusive school environment in which all of the students, families, staff members feel valued, respected, and welcomed. And I think this budget meets those 3 guiding principles. And there's many others that the board has, but I wanted to call those out. That's it for the 30,000 foot level as far as the budget. I'll entertain any questions, or we can really get to the star of the show, Yasmin, who will go into detail a little bit more. Yeah. No, gee, I just want to share. This is something that Yasmin has spent hours and with our whole team actually. And it seems like over the last several years, we've started our process a lot sooner during the year. And it feels like we're doing budgeting, planning for the budget meeting all year round. And it's vital to make sure that we're on solid ground moving forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Yasmin.
Thank you, Brent. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Chris? Okay, we found it. Perfect. If you want, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go right into the budget document, which is organized in tabs. So the first tab is the budget message. Tab 2, we have some summary graphs for you for all funds. Tab 3, we have the general fund revenue. Tabs 4 through 18, we have all the general fund expenditures by center. Tab 19, we have the grants and special programs. Tab 20, the capital projects fund. Tab 22 is a new fund, internal service fund. And tab 23 will have your grand totals, which they always balance for both revenues and expenditures according to the Oregon budget law. So the total for Phoenix Island School budget is $79,790,000. We have 4 main funds to manage the district resources. So we have the general fund at $44,940,000, and this is the main operating fund for the district. Then we have the grants and special programs fund at $24,660,000. The debt service fund is $3,890,000, and this fund is used to hold the taxes levied by the district to pay for the bond debt. The capital projects fund budget is $5,850,000. In this fund, we appropriated the 2018 bond proceeds remaining balance, and also a $1 million solar grant for Talent Middle School. The last fund, the internal service fund, will be used to hold unemployment reserve funds to pay for the expected increase in the unemployment liability. On tab 3, we have the general fund resources, revenue resources. We are estimating general fund property tax revenues of $11.53 million and state sources of $23.5 million. The latest state school fund estimate for 24-25 was calculated at $11,000 per 2,753 ADMWs, which is the weighted average daily membership or student enrollment plus weights for special education English language learners in poverty. The estimated beginning fund balance, as Brent mentioned, or did you mention this? Not just the ending. Our beginning fund balance for 24-25, we estimate that is going to be around $8.85 million. Next slide.
I just add, Yasmin talked about what the estimated state school fund per student value is. Just the board knows this, and maybe you remember from being on the board, but that number fluctuates all the time. I mean, it could be fluctuate on a $200,000 difference here, which it just did last week. Not in our favor, and it could fluctuate in our favor sometimes. Just that's why it's such a challenge sometimes to budget accurately. But Yasmin does a good job of keeping the pulse on that. I just wanted to mention that.
We try. Okay, we have some general fund highlights. Some of them Brent already mentioned. So the state school fund was funded at $10.2 billion for the biennium. Since it's the second year of the biennium, it's funded at 51% for 24-25. The ADM security grant will provide a $4.47 million in state school fund revenue. Now going to expenditures, we eliminated the 4 temp teacher positions that we had during 23-24. Also 1 elementary teacher due to retirement, and we had to relocate 2 teacher positions to a different school to adjust for the student enrollment. We also had to move 1 special education teacher position and 2.27 additional FTEs to the general fund from IDA grant, high school success, and ESSER due to lack of grant funding. There was also a need to add a new American Sign Language classified position for incoming student needs. General fund, the total decrease on FTEs is 1.42. Also, as Brent mentioned, we had to add 400,000 to the expenditures due to substitute costs because of the Oregon paid leave. We already experienced a very high unemployment, substitute costs for this year, but we were able to pay with ESSER funds. For next year, we don't have that grant, so we need to put them on the general fund. We also had to add 400,000, as Brent mentioned, for increased unemployment costs due to the passing of the Senate Bill 489. For the general fund, we need to classify the expenditures according to the Oregon budget law by function, object, cost centers, and areas of responsibility. So the first category, the function, basically classifies as expenses according to their purpose. So we have instruction, support services, facilities, construction, debt service. The function categories also match the expenditures appropriation limits that the district is authorized to spend on each category. The estimated ending fund balance for 24-25 is 7.977 million, which represents a 17.75% of total revenues. And just to highlight the importance of the House Bill 4026 ADM security grant that we received, without these funds, the estimated fund balance would have been a deficit of 3.9 million, and many cuts would have been necessary to balance the budget. The next category for expenditures is the object, which describes the type of expense. So we have salaries, benefits, purchase services, debt service. The main expenses for the school district are salaries at 17.28 million and benefits at 9.58 million, which in total represent about 74% of budgeted expenses. In purchase services, we include transportation, the Armadillo Charter School, substitute costs, utilities, and other services. Cost centers are used to identify schools and other district-wide centers or programs. So we have the 6 schools, we have special education, maintenance, IT, instructional services, debt service. Our schools can be found in tabs 5 through 11. This slide is an example of how to read the details of this budget for the general fund. The whole document follows the same pattern. The budget document must include the 2 preceding years' actuals, the current year budget and FTE, and the proposed budget amount and FTE. Once the budget is approved and adopted, 3 more columns will be added to the budget document. It will include an approved budget column, adopted budget, and adopted FTE. Now, if you could please go to tab 6, page 59. You will see the Talent Middle School Special Education budget page. The increase on FTE and budget totals is due to the special education teacher transfer from the IDA grant due to decreased funding. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's continue. On tab 19, we have grants and special programs. The total budget for grants and special programs fund is 24.66 million. This budget includes the following state grants. We have SIA at 2.695 million, high school success at 650,000. The summer school grants, we're fortunate enough to receive $515,000 allocation. The preschool promise grant is $283,000. The early literacy grant is $363,000, including the carryover from the current year. As for federal grants, we have a combined $5.96 million in ESSER 3 that will be spent during the summer, mainly on the seismic construction project at Tal Elementary School and Tal Middle School. We also have a portion of those funds for summer school, the Jumpstart Kindergarten Grant, and the Mental Health Community Care Grant. One more is the ARP Homeless Children and Youth Program. It's a smaller grant. We have about $40,000, but it will be fully spent before September 30th of this year. We also have the school-based mental health grant for $625,000. Now, the total decrease on FTEs for the Grants and Special Programs Fund is 4.2. On tab 20, we have the debt service fund. The expenditure appropriations of tab 20 correspond to the debt service payment schedule for the 2018 general obligation bonds. The total debt service for 24-25 is $3,741,450. It is important to note that due to the high interest rate received in the debt service fund LGIP account this year, the district will be able to pass on the savings to the taxpayers by reducing the taxes levy to fulfill the debt service obligation by $140,000 for 24-25. Most of the property tax revenue that we receive is in the month of November, and we have an interest payment due in December, and the principal and interest second payment is due until May, so we are able to hold those funds which earn interest during the year, and therefore we have all those savings for the taxpayers.
It's always nice to highlight that too, when we're, have that opportunity to share with our taxpayers, as you guys are, to pass that on to our taxpaying vested interest group. So thank you.
On tab 21, we have the Capital Projects Fund, which is a bond fund. The total proposed budget for this fund is $5,850,000. We are estimating that the bond ending fund balance for the current year, 23-24, will be approximately $4.5 million, and the full balance has been appropriated, so it's available for use. The budget includes, like I mentioned before, the seismic construction projects for Tal Elementary School and Tal Middle School, Culver athletic fields, the high school tennis courts, and $1 million for the Tal Middle School solar grant. Now, this graph in front of you shows the total expenditures by site from 2017, since the bond passed, until or through the end of this fiscal year, June 30th, 2024. So I didn't put the total there, but it's a total of $78,121,523. The graph looks a little weird.
Not inside outside.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I think it's not in PowerPoint. Okay, next slide. This shows the total revenues received from 2017 through 2024. As you can see, most of the revenue came from the bond proceeds and premium at $71,272,000. After that, we have the Awesome Grant, the state matching grant for $4 million. We also had the seismic grant for the high school for $2,500,000. And so far, we received an interest and gain on investments, $3.659 million. Other sources came from other state grants, the Blue Sky Grant, Solar Red Grant for the high school, and donations from the Morris Foundation. And we also have the SB 1149 funds going into the capital projects funds now.
I think we've talked about this a few times with the board, but I think it'll be important to highlight to our community about really, we passed a $68 million bond, and so far we've had $82.5 million worth of projects, which is value on the dollar for sure. Not only, when we get a chance to return money to our taxpayers, also just looking at how we highlight how far their dollar is going with all the grants. And, you know, John's a huge part of that. HMK, I'd be remiss if they were mentioned. They were our project manager for the first few years in our bond projects. And it's just really nice to highlight. And I think we can share that with our community and they'll be very happy with that.
Okay, we're on the last tab. Tab 22 is the internal service fund. And this just has an explanation of the reason why we had to create a new fund for the 24-25 year. It's basically a fund where we're gonna hold the unemployment funds to be able to pay the liability for next year. So the Senate Bill 489 pretty much eliminated the restriction of payment of unemployment insurance benefits during school breaks for certain non-professional educational workers or classified workers. Now, the potential unemployment liability rose from an estimated $50,000, as Brent mentioned, to $450,000 per year. And I think that's it.
And just real quick, this is something, and you may not know, Yasmin talks to our auditors all year long as well. This was a suggestion of the auditors on how we kind of navigate this new kind of uncharted territory. And so the auditor suggested it this way. If appropriate and a motion is going to be made tonight, there is some language that we'll need to add based on this to be included in that, which will make the auditors very happy next October. So actually it'll be the following October. Never mind.
If you have any questions for me. I also wanted to mention that the last fund, we used to just pay the 50,000 out of general fund, but in order for us to be able to charge the grants for the corresponding amount of unemployment, because it includes a lot of our classified staff and a lot of those instructional assistants are paid with grant funds, then we needed to make sure that we were able to charge the unemployment rate across the board. So it was suggested for us to do it through payroll. And that's the reason why we had to create the internal service fund.
I have a question and an observation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. One very minor question under tab number 3, under admissions 1710, jumps from 5,000 to 20,000. Are we anticipating an influx of students for that to justify that? And it's not a lot of money. I'm just curious about the $15,000 bump on it.
This is basically the admissions to go to games. It's just the key receipts in a way. So since we have students now, then, you know, we've been able to see that revenue coming back because the athletics budget goes through the general fund. So some kind of reimbursements needs to come to be able to fund those programs.
Okay, so I didn't understand your use of the term admissions. That clarifies it. The only other observation that I have is on the Phoenix High School budget, I'm looking at page 28, and I see that we have a total high school extracurricular of $623,646, of which, if I understand this correctly, 514 of it is athletics, leaving, in round numbers, 109,000 for other extracurricular activities, including, you know, voice, band, theater, those art programs that I personally find as important as athletics. And I know that we're not going to change that tonight. We're not going to change that in the next year or two, but I would like to see the district work towards getting more students back involved in the theater, the arts programs, and seeing that budget increase to make those things happen. I know I was at a school board meeting when we threatened to cancel athletics and there was a minor riot in the school at the time with the parents. I understand all that, but I think the district could, through some work with the students, gaining their interest in those arts programs, start to get those back in place. That's my only commentary observation. And it's extremely clear, concise document. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And I echo those thoughts as well. And that and we have the facilities to do all of that as well. And we're hopeful when we do get students back and can add some of those programs. 20 years ago, we had 825 students and now we're at 670. And so we're really looking at, we talk about that every year on band and theater and getting that interest back up because we're such a, our area is rich in the arts and we need to continue to have kids participate in that. So thanks for those thoughts.
Chime in here a little bit. I just want to follow up a little bit more on this, this new, what do we call it? Internal Services Fund. Are the rest of the school districts doing something similar? Or is this unique?
No, we're all doing it. How we have meetings at state level because this is affecting everybody
Yeah.
and it's putting a big damper on everybody's budget. If for our district is an increase of 400,000, we have districts that had to put on their budgets $2 million or more.
But are
just
they
to cover
creating a
this.
separate fund like we're proposing here? Or are they doing a different shell game?
Most of them do a specific fund. Otherwise, it is difficult to charge the different funds. And that's the reasoning why, because it applies to employees. And it's gonna be during summer break. So they're still our employees, but it's when they're not working, that's when they can apply for unemployment. So that's the reason why this is the best way for us to be able to charge not just the general fund, but also the grant funds, which unfortunately would also lower the ability for us to be able to invest in more programs with those grants. It needs to be fixed at the state level, I hope. And so this is a service fund. And as we see the use of it, if for any reason we don't use the full fund, we can always lower that percentage for the following year. So at this point, it's a waiting game to see how many people are going to apply for unemployment and how much is going to be used. But for us, we needed to be responsible and prepared for if like 80% of our classified employees claim unemployment during the summer break, we need to be prepared for this.
Sure.
What is a classified employee? I don't know.
They're like our instructional aides,
Okay.
our office staff. That's mainly our special education aides.
And this is just during the summertime.
Yeah, or during winter breaks and spring breaks.
Any other comments, questions right now on the proposed budget?
Yes, I do. Just clarification, that unemployment that just went up to 450,000 used to be 50,000. In the past, did we use up that 50? Was that 50,000 usually expended?
Not always,
Okay.
but it was just smart for us to have the 50,000 available, appropriated just in case, and like during COVID times, or we were above that.
Yeah.
But then we got some back. So it's difficult to estimate those kind of things, but we wouldn't go above the 50,000 normally. So let's see, after a year from now, we'll be able to discuss how it's going for the 24-25 year and plan for that.
We don't
For the
really have
next one.
baseline. We don't.
At this point, we don't, because it will be the first summer. We're going through it. We went through the spring break, but there's a 1 week waiting period for anybody that applies for unemployment, and it's for 52 weeks. So if they apply for unemployment during the spring, then they don't receive any benefits. So I won't be able to see the invoices for that quarter anyway. There won't be any impact on that until we finish the summer. Then I'll see that invoice and then I'll be able to tell.
So just a strategy, like how we're kind of tackling that. We also got a summer learning grant this summer. And so we're offering jobs to all of our classified staff. We have the need, want to have as many students as possible. And the amount of students often is dictated by the amount of staff who we can have work the summer schools. And so that's an option for us this year. We're hopeful that we'll get a legislation where there's summer grant, more consistency in that. And then that might impact our unemployment kind of line item, budget item. Based on some of the unemployment requests we got just from the spring break, we felt like we needed to make sure that we budget this and be prepared on this next budget cycle. Next year at this time, we may have we'll have a cycle that's gone through. Also, there's going to be legislation that we're advocating for some adjustments on the unemployment for this, and because the guardrails are pretty wide right now, and so we're going to probably seek some legislation that kind of cleans some of this up too.
Any other comments or questions on the budget document at this point?
I had a follow-up to the unemployment conversation. Do we anticipate, the one thing I know about unemployment is the higher the usage, the higher your rate goes up. Is that part of this $400,000 fund, or do we have monies allocated in anticipation of our rate increasing as well?
Right now, we have the 400,000 increase to it, and we are self-insured. So we don't have a rate imposed by the state at this point.
Okay.
We estimated just based on our number of employees and classified staff. What I budgeted was a 2.12% rate. And it depends on the usage, and even more so because we have the summer school grant. If we do have a lot of classified staff that actually come and work for us, we may see that we're not going to have as much unemployment. And it depends on how much is on reserve on that fund for the following year. We may be able to adjust our rate even and make it lower, hopefully. But it depends on what we see this year, the 24-25 year.
Thank you. I think that's an important distinction from private and public. And then who makes the determinations? Does the state agency do that, or do we make determinations on who's eligible?
That's basically the Oregon Employment Department. And we do have mediator, Lawrence Company, which help us with the claim to make sure that they are eligible for those claims, and they're also the ones that are helping us fight if there's something that is not correct or not right with the claims. So we do have someone helping us as well.
Okay, thank you.
I want to highlight what she just said there, because you heard a lot of determine eligibility and sharing information. This costs our staff, not only we're increasing $400,000, it's costing our staff is spending many hours, extra hours on working with unemployment departments and our support that's going through this too. So it has a lot of impact, but we also want to do the right thing, but it is adding some load to current staff.
Another question too. So are you actually putting this 450 into a fund? So if it's not used, I mean, let's say, well, it goes well and we only spend 100,000, then for next year we have 350,000 already in that fund that we'd only have to add another 100,000 next year's budget.
Correct.
Okay.
So on the resolution, we're including that according to the district's needs, then we'll be able to adjust the rate for future years. Hopefully we don't have to increase it. I'm hoping we'll have to lower it.
Polly, did you have something?
Yeah, I used to work for the employment department. So each time someone files, there's an adjudicator looking at that. And so they would be talking to that person in the district. So each time they're looking at the eligibility on each one of those people who apply to make sure it's valid.
Anybody else have any comments, questions at this point? You know, with our highly efficient staff working on this, and Yasmin, all your work, we're ahead of schedule here a little bit too. So let me ask this of the group here. You want to just power through right now, or do you want a 5 or 10 minute break?
I would say power through.
Okay. We've had a couple of those thumbs up already. So let's move forward a little bit. What we'll need is it means there's no more questions. Let me ask first, is there any public? I don't know if we have any public at all. No? Okay. Okay. Did we have a copy of the draft motion somewhere?
I have a copy in front of me.
You have a copy? There it is. Okay, so at this point, I would entertain a motion. Dwayne, Laura, does somebody want to read the motion or?
I would be happy to.
Okay, Laura, if you don't mind, will you?
I would be thrilled to do this in my last meeting. I move that the Phoenix Talent School District proposed budget for 2024-2025 and the aggregate amount of $79,790,000 total of all funds be recommended for approval, and that the permanent tax rate of $2.2422 per $1,000 of assessment value be assessed in support of the general fund. This permanent tax rate is expected to raise $11,220,000. I further move that a tax of $3,750,000 be recommended for approval for the debt service fund for the purpose of the regiment of bonded debt owned by the school district. In detail, general fund, $44,940,000. Special programs fund, $24,660,000. Debt service fund, $3,890,000. Capital projects fund, $5,580,000. Internal service fund, $450,000 for a total of $79,790,000.
Thank you, Laura. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Roland seconded.
Just real quick on the tax rate, was that 4.2422?
Yeah.
Oh, did I read it incorrectly?
Yeah, just say-
4.2422.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. $3,890,000.
Yep.
Roland, you good with that second of the modification? Okay, thanks. Any further discussion on this? Can we call a vote then? Is general okay, or do we need a vote one by one?
I think a roll call vote would be best.
Okay. So after the motion, I've got to add this addendum in on here. So let me read this too also. The recommendation for approval of the proposed budget for 2024-2025 as presented will be forwarded to the Board of Directors for consideration and or action. Furthermore, the Budget Committee recommends the creation of an internal service fund for the purpose of paying the additional unemployment costs for the district's classified staff. We also recommend that a resolution be created for this fund and that the board adopt the resolution when the budget is adopted. That goes with the motion. So we call the roll on this. Let's see. Start with Polly.
Yes.
Rick? Yeah. Michael?
Yes.
Roland? Yes. Dwayne?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Nate? Dawn? Let's see, Sarah?
Yes.
And Laura?
Yes.
And then I vote yes also. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Appears we have a budget or the forwarding of a budget until the board approves it. So, and before we part ways, I guess I want to thank again, Michael, I saw your hand up too. You want to go first?
Yeah, I was, and maybe you were headed in the same direction, Chair Vargas. I just wanted to thank Laura for all of her dedicated years of service to the Phoenix Talent School District as both a board member and a budget committee member. And Laura, I'm supremely jealous that you've moved to, or are you planning on moving to Hawaii? But I just wanted to thank you, and I know you're moving on to the next chapter in your life, but I really appreciate all your years of service to our kids, and won't be easy shoes to fill. We're gonna miss you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Michael. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Good. Thank you, Laura. That's where I was headed to. So I appreciate that.
Thank you all. Thank you. It's been a great ride, and I will be back in Oregon a number of times every year because my grandkids are still there and still telling me, Grandma, you have to come for the first day of school this year. So, okay.
Come and see us.
Thank you, Laura.
Oh, thank
Final words for me. Always appreciate being here. It's only once a year that I usually come here. It's good to see faces. I know a lot of you for so many years. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. I want to thank the administrators. It's just, we don't thank them enough. You guys get raked over the coals for a lot of things. So appreciate the administration and the school board and the district. So thank you very much. Okay. I think without further ado, we're going to close the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Be safe.